So what's up hip hop rally fans and community members? Today we're going to be talking about Maschine 2.0 drum synths. Now, in my opinion, Maschine 2.0's drum synths are the best addition to the new 2.0 software. Now, what are drum synths? Drum synths are essentially going to allow you to build an unlimited supply of unique and custom tailored drum sounds in your productions, okay? So it'll allow you to create drum sounds from scratch versus having to use someone else's pre-recorded sounds. If you've been using drum samples, like from any drum sample library, maybe the one that came with Maschine, or maybe the ones that you've bought or purchased on the internet or whatever, these are pre-recorded pieces of sounds that can't really change. The difference with drum synths is that you can create a sound essentially from scratch and build something that has never existed before. So it's allowing you to create something completely, totally unique to you, to your sound, your ears, and it's really important for you to learn this to become a better beat maker. You need to be able to build your own sounds. You need to be able to understand how sound works and how to implement that knowledge and to create better beats. So today we're talking about drum synths, and it's going to be a little bit longer than normal because there's a lot of important information that I need to cover in order to really drive this message home and to teach you guys this. So I'm excited to talk about drum synths today. Let's get to learning.
So what is the advantage of drum synths over samples? Well, I'm going to start with this. You guys know the old saying, you know how it goes, give a man a fish and he eats today, teach a man to fish and he eats for life, or something to that effect. Basically what that means is by learning how to use drum synths properly, that's the equivalent of me teaching you how to fish instead of just giving you this fish. In the context of drum synths, instead of having to rely on pre-made sample sounds that are really defined and kind of rigid, by learning how to use these drum synths properly, you're going to be able to custom design your own sounds that you want for your productions. So instead of relying on other sound designers or people that make samples for you, like Native Instruments has in the past, like people do on the internet, by learning how to use these Native Instruments drum synths, you can design your own sounds for your beats. These new drum synths are like 1,000 times more versatile than traditional drum samples because samples are really a finite, non-moving thing. You can't really change the sound of a sample too much in one direction or another. What you hear is essentially what you get. But drum synths are different in that they give you a creative possibility that you can use to shape and mold your drums to the exact sound that you want. So if you want that boomy 808 sounding kick drum, you can make it. If you want a grimy, trap sounding snare drum, you can make that as well. It gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of the things that you can create because you're using synthesis instead of just using pieces of pre-recorded sound. So now that you understand why using drum synths is so important, let's dive into the details about how to create some awesome sounding drums using them. Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about how do you use drum synths to create awesome sounding sounds. The first step in this is understanding the synthesis or the synth part in drum synths. Okay, so by synthesis, this means that you can fine-tune and adjust the drums using the principles and parameters of synthesis. You can finely adjust the attack of a drum sound or subtly adjust the decay of your drum sound. And I'm going to walk you through that process in a moment of how to use synthesis to create these drum sounds. But first of all, let's get started. I'm gonna basically pretend like I'm building my own drum kit from scratch, and I'll show you exactly how I do that using these drum kits. And kind of along the way, I'm gonna explain some of the parameters and things that are going on. And show you typically what I'm talking about. So let's create some sort of like hip hop style beat, just because this is hip hop rally. But let's start with the first things first. We're selected in this group here that says drums. Let's change that label. I double-clicked it and selected drums. And we're going to load our first kick drum into this sound slot 1. And in order to do that, instead of going and browsing through your library like you traditionally would, trying to load a sample, in order to load a drum synth, you just click this plus, go to the drum synth tab, and select the type of drum synth you want to load in. In this case is the kick. Okay, so I've chosen a kick, and as you can see, it doesn't automatically label this sound, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Label it kick simply, and now we have a bass kick to work with. So I have the kick loaded in now, so I guess it's time to start dialing in the exact sound that you want. And I'm going to start experimenting here. I'll stop talking and start tweaking these drum sounds and kind of explain exactly what's going on as I'm doing it. All right, first of all, I'm going to, looks like I might already have it. I'm going to throw a compressor on my master bus to sort of mix into a compressor. I want light compression. As you can see, that really changed the sound of this drum. Okay. So now we're no longer clipping. It's something I should have done before setting this up. But anyway, let's go back to messing around with this kick drum. The first aspect that you see here is the engine. Okay. Now the drum engine gives you an overall sort of basic texture for your drum sound. As you can hear as I cycle through these, there's a few different synth engines or sound engines available for each different drum sound. So different synth engines are available for snares, hi-hats, and all that other stuff. For kick drums, you see sub, dusty, rasper, snappy, bold, maple, and push. Now, it's not important that I explain to you exactly what these are. It's just you need to know that each one of these will provide you sort of like a base for your drum sound. So they're going to give you a little bit different starting point for you to mold and manipulate later on. And each one of them has an individual, slightly different parameter that you have to work with. So what you're going to have to do is figure out exactly what sounds you can create from each sort of individual engine. And recently I've been playing around with this tronic engine just because I like the kind of attack phase of the drum sound. It sounds pretty cool to me. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to start slowly adjusting this drum sound to get it to sound the way that I want. If you notice, right now I'm working with, I'm going to make sort of a hip-hop beat. So typically what you could do if you were making more of an electronic beat is just punch in your four on the floor pattern and adjust the sound as you go to sort of get what you want. But since I'm working with a hip-hop beat, I don't really know the pattern yet, and I'm just going to sort of keep pressing the kick drum and dialing it into what I want to get it into. So as you can kind of see here, I'll sort of go back and explain some of these parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and rest on this sound that I have right now just for the sake of this tutorial. I know it would probably take me a lot longer to finally tweak exactly how I'd want this sound. But the tune is pretty self-explanatory. Like you're used to in the sampling engine, the tune parameter basically allows you to dial in the exact frequency of the drum sound. So right here you see 38.10, and that represents 38 hertz. So that's a pretty low frequency drum sound. If you want a more boomy kick drum sound, more bottom end, you can dial it down a little bit. If you want it more higher end, more higher pitch, dial it up a little bit. So it allows you really precise, fine-tuned control over the exact tune of your drum, which is also the pitch of your drum sound. Okay, so the next is the decay. And the decay represents the envelope of your drum. To put that simply, it basically controls the length of your drum sound. A lower decay setting is going to give you a shorter thump. A longer decay setting will make the sound more boomy. So very short, very long. So you can really control the length of your drum sound with the decay. The bend allows you to pitch up the very beginning of your sound. So by adjusting this parameter, you can change the initial hit frequency at the beginning of the drum hit, and it'll sort of create an effect of a more thicker sounding kick drum. So if I turn it all the way down, the only sound that you'll be hearing is this frequency that this tune is at 38.58. And if you pitch it up a little bit, it'll sort of make the kick drum a little bit fuller. So more frequencies will be affected. So just adding more digital information to a specific frequency. The impact adds more attack phase to the sound by increasing, that thwap sound. So you're making the initial hit of the drum sound more audible. It kind of makes a more clicky sound. And if you were to look at what it looks like to add more impact on like a frequency analysis tool, you'd probably see that it adds more digital information in the 130 hertz range or so. So I'm going to go ahead and settle for this kick drum. I'm going to go ahead and load in some more stuff to try to figure out a pattern that I'd like to work with. So as I'll show you again, click the sound that you want to load the synthesizer into, the drum synth. Select drum synth drop-down menu, and then we'll jump on a snare. And again, it doesn't automatically label it, so it helps to label it yourself by double-clicking and just typing it in. Alright, so I'm tapping in the tempo that I want to work with on my Maschine Studio controller, and now I'm about to throw in this pattern just because I think it's something, a pretty good base to work off of. I'm gonna enter in this pattern. Too fast. I'm having a little trouble getting the tempo right, but we'll dial it in. Okay, I know I just did a lot, but I kind of wanted to keep going with that idea. So now I'm going to basically explain to you what just all went down, to show you the power of these drum synths. So basically, after I entered in that kick pattern, I just started with that basic kick sound. I threw on a few, I did a little bit of mixing to sort of demonstrate kind of how I would naturally work with these drum synths. But basically, what you saw me do was figure out a kick drum that I wanted to work with. I figured out a snare, kind of clap bass to sit behind a more attack-oriented snare sound. So I'm going to label that snare 2, and then hat. So basically, I figured out that snare pattern that I wanted as well, and layered on another sound on top of that. And then I figured out the hi-hat pattern that I wanted. Basically, you saw me add a little bit of transient master as well to increase the initial hit of that drum sound. And I also added in, I did a little bit of parallel processing using some of these send channels that I've already previously set up in a send channel section in my machine. So you see I have compression and reverb and all that stuff already loaded into a send channel, and I just sent my sound directly to that send channel in order to thicken it up and to do a little bit of processing, make this mix sound a little bit more full and a lot better. So that I sort of quickly put together this drum mix. Obviously, there's a lot of high pass filtering that I need to do in order to clean up these low ends a little bit more. But basically, this is how I use the Maschine drum synths. It's not exactly important that you know exactly what every little thing does as far as these drum synths. You don't really need to know exactly what os mix does or the noise coloring, even though it might be helpful. But the basic idea is that this will allow you to finely tune and tailor your drum sounds. And when you add upon that, Maschine's very powerful stock effects that come with it, and Maschine's very powerful ability to let you use send channels as well. You can create something from scratch really quickly. Okay, so and if you think about it, it's incredibly incredibly creative process, considering that these sounds don't exist ever. Like these sounds have probably never existed before in this combination. All right, so these aren't some stock pre-recorded sounds that you just drag and drop and throw into Maschine. These are something that you have to tweak and mold to your own liking, and that's what makes them so unique and so powerful for you. It's that it's that, like I said, that give a man to fish concept, teach a man to fish. And once you understand how to create your own customized sounds using these simple parameters, and once you've started to utilize them, it can become very powerful for you and your beat making, as you can now really tailor yourself or tailor your beats to a wide range of different sounds that you can create on your own by making some simple slight adjustments to some parameters. So get to making some dope drum sounds. P.S. I don't know why I just said that, but it's kind of odd to say P.S. and not write it down. But I'm thinking of creating some of my own customized presets for these drum synths. So basically what I'm thinking of is saving some of my own presets and giving you guys like a folder of a few drum kits that you can work with, something that's already pre-made for you, so that you don't have to, maybe if you don't feel like creating your own sounds, or if you would like some of my own sounds, I can share them with you for free via download link. But I'm not going to make them until I have 20 comments below in this video asking specifically for them, so that I know that there's a demand for it. So let me know that if you want one of these free kits by commenting in the comments below, and once I have 20 comments in the section, I'll create them and give them away for free on the blog. So if you've watched the video or this video up to this point, you are clearly really interested in learning a lot about Maschine. You're interested in advancing your knowledge, becoming better at making beats. I have got a present for you, and it's not even Christmas. My free ebook is called Maschine, the Hip Hop Beatmaker's Missing Manual. And this book is basically about teaching hip hop producers about how to use Native Instruments Maschine effectively to make great music. This isn't that boring corporate jargon, that is inside of the Maschine manual that'll bore you to death, that automatically assume that you already know a bunch about making music. This is plain English, layman's terms information about how to make the best use of this tool. Specific topics that I talk about how to sample using Maschine. So how to creatively chop up your samples. Where should you find your samples? How to buy Maschine used on the internet without getting ripped off. So many different topics on here that I don't have enough time to cover because this thing is pretty big. It's a 58-page book that goes into things like mixing as well and making awesome sounds, automation. So pretty much everything that you need to know to get started making some cool quality beats is available. So basically, in order for you to get it, there is going to be a email enter box that comes up directly after I'm done talking. Right after I'm finished talking, there'll be a box that appears right here in the center of this page, and it's going to allow you to type in your email address and press send, essentially. So you're going to enter your email in after I'm done talking and press the button. And within a few minutes, I'm going to send you an automatic email confirmation that basically confirms that you didn't misspell the email address that you sent me. And after you've confirmed that email address, I'm going to send you a copy of this free ebook. And you'll be able to enjoy it and get up and running with your Maschine a lot more quickly than you otherwise would without it. So again, this is 100% free, and you can grab it by entering in your email after I'm done talking right here.